Okay. So, I am honored to be here with Richard Russell, very dear friend. We got in touch because I heard that you gave vocal lessons, and geez, over the years I have struggled so much with singing. Back in the Heart days when we were first getting together at Vancouver, BC, it just pained Anne to listen to me sing because I had a hard time with pitch. And back then, part of that was due to smoking cigarettes. But really, the crux of it was that I had never trained and dialed it in. And some people just naturally hear pitch and can reproduce it really well. There's something physical that goes on here that makes it difficult for me to do that. So I've really tried hard and taken many vocal lessons. But when I came to you and found this simple exercise to warm up the voice and learn how to produce a more beautiful tone that's totally rock solid on key, then that changed my world, and I thank you so much for that.
Well, it was my pleasure. I never suspected I would give you a lesson in anything. And you know, the history you're talking about of some people sing better, some people don't, people can be trained, people can resist training. It's all true. And you know, my mother had a gifted voice, and I think I had a voice, but I never found it because, unlike you, number one, I wasn't remotely skilled at songwriting, and when I was first playing piano and trying to sing, it was a train wreck, you know, because number one, I didn't know how to accompany voice, and number two, I hadn't found my voice. Right. So I just said, okay, forget that, back off into, you know, jazz fusion world and just playing, you know, instrumentally. So for me, the turning point came right here in Washington State. I was a senior at Evergreen State College, and I had the opportunity to go to Nepal for a year. Okay, and really, I just wanted to go play in the Himalayas, and I had to, you know, this was when Evergreen was really creative and free. I don't know what it's like now, but you know, you could design your own programs. So I was going to study sacred music, Tibetan. I wasn't quite sure. Whatever was close to Mount Everest was okay with me.
Yeah.
But as often happens in life, you know, circumstances intervene. So I was in a train station in New Delhi, having a conversation with an American woman. And when she learned of my interest in music, she told me about a sitar player in Kathmandu. And sitar, what's that, right? I still didn't know. And I did end up going to her and studying essentially what's called North Indian or Hindustani classical music, or beginning to study it. All right, so long story short, I was introduced to Indian music at a time when I had only been playing music since I was 19, so I was very ripe for being reshaped, right? And when I decided that I wanted to continue studying sitar, it was like, where the heck do I go? You know, I'm back in America. I was actually back in Seattle, and I found out about a college in California that was called the Ali Akbar College of Music. And I didn't know who Ali Akbar was. I didn't know who Ravi Shankar was. I didn't know anything, right? So I went there after I completed that year in Nepal and got introduced to music. And basically, my entire life was reshaped. Everything was blown off. The lid was blown off of everything, whether it was my, you know, spiritual direction, my personal philosophy, my discipline, my understanding of music, and the tiny box that I was living in terms of my knowledge and experience, because I was, you know, blessed to be at the feet of literally one of the greatest musicians of the 20th century. you know, and he came to America to teach. He could have stayed in India, toured more, made more money, gone to Europe, done films. He wanted to teach because it was very important to him. So I was introduced to Ali Akbar Khan when he returned from India, and as soon as I met him, it was like, this room is too small, where do I hide? Because this person had a presence and a command, not only of music, but just of everything in his life. He was a consummate master of himself, of his music, and of his students.
I've been around people like that before, and you can just stand next to them and feel awkward and, you know, not worthy. It's such a strange thing.
Yeah, it's very easy, particularly around people of such stellar genius, to feel unworthy. But, so what happens when you're studying Indian classical music, which is somewhat akin to the European approach to classical music, but not what we see so much in, you know, average music training, is that there is this continuity between vocal skill, not necessarily to become a great singer, but vocal skill and knowledge that has to go along with learning the music. Because there's something about the voice, I don't need to tell you, you're a great singer, that is evocative beyond every other instrument.
Absolutely.
Right? It has a presence, a control, a variations of timbre, of dynamics, of pitch, endless, right? I mean, things that you really, really have to struggle to do it on an instrument can just come right up, literally out of your voice. And, you know, I was in this environment where I wasn't afraid to sing. I had a decent voice, but, you know, you had to go to vocal class, right? So when the first vocal class I went to, and I still have that lesson, I still practice it, and we're talking 40 plus years ago, was in Rag Deshmalar. And a malar is a rainy season raga. So we won't spend a lot of time on that today since the sun finally came out.
Yeah.
But the experience I had just in that one page of music just changed everything that I conceived of. The idea of control. You know, he was teaching a style of music called Drupad, which actually is from ancient times. You don't even hear it very much anymore. It's the predecessor to what we think of as modern Indian music, which is mostly something that's called Khyal. Two different styles, right? One evolved from the other. And the Drupad style was very formal, very strict in its structure, but incredibly powerful too. It literally means foot. You know, dhruv is related to the word foot, and it's like the walk of an elephant. It's so steady and so strong, and it's going to be a while before he gets here, but he's going to get here.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
That kind of feeling, just so much power, and I just was like, oh my goodness, you know, this is a whole other world. So then you sit with this teacher, and he basically just is creating compositions left and right. And elaborating on them the same way you and I might improvise on a solo. He's doing that within a structure, so he's really composing on the spot and just nonstop. You know, if you stop to write something down, you know you'd already lost two lines that had gone by. But the idea was, you know, you had this experience with this master who had a beautiful voice too. Even though he smoked as well.
Oh yeah.
But he just was so connected to the music that, you know, he had yogic powers that transcended his body. There's no question in my mind. And then we would have follow up with advanced students, like, what just happened, right? Because when you went to the class with Ali Akbar Khan Sahab, it was always an experience. It was like a concert every time, and you know, you were supposed to learn it and be working on it, but half of you was just mesmerized by it, so it was like hard to concentrate. So of course we would get together in groups and sit with advanced students. And it was at this time that I met one of my other mentors, Dr. George Ruckert, who was the director of the college and highly skilled Western musician before he started studying one of Consop's oldest disciples. So some of the things that I've learned and I share with my students are based on what I learned from George as the filter of this immensely complex experience that I would have in class. Because other people were writing notes down, and we all had our little Sony recorders out, just praying we would get something we could understand.
Yeah.
But what it all came down to was what you did afterwards, practice time, and not just practice, but we read this, we hear this a lot in regards to music. It's not what you practice, it's how you practice. I'm sure you've
Absolutely.
walked that road.
Yeah, like the great blues guys will tell you, it ain't what you play, it's how you play it.
Exactly. So you get to this point in the study of the music where you have to do a lot of exercises, but the exercises are not what you get if you go to a Western vocal teacher. And there's no doubt a Western vocal teacher could probably improve me. I don't have a huge range. I've got lots of things I can make better. But what I learned from the Indian music that transfers to everything. It doesn't matter whether it's music or life. There's something about the process of learning this culture and its art form that, it just bleeds into everything you do. And people go, that's all you think about. And I'm like, that's all there is.
Yeah. I know. I love that relationship between finding how to be quiet and the ability to free associate music.
Yeah.
And when you can free associate with no inhibitions, it's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.